Okay, I want to thank everybody for your patience. As you can tell, we're just a wee little bit late tonight, but thank you for waiting. This is meeting number 6. It is March 19th, 2018. It is 5:30-ish p.m. in the Thomas Smith Council, something like that.
J. Smith. Thomas J. Smith.
Don't interrupt me when I'm talking. That bothers me. I've been waiting to do that. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. All right. Would you all please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all.
There's the mouse.
Okay. Tonight, first we have roll call. Kathleen?
Wilson?
Here.
Phillips?
Here.
Graham Murray?
Here.
McCampbell?
Here.
Rinker?
Here.
All right. All matters listed under item 1 consent agenda having been discussed are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. If a discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. On the consent tonight, we have the usual finances, miscellaneous, excuse me, minutes of previous meetings, payroll and city claims, beer, liquor, wine, and cigarettes, reports, and bonds. We have 4 resolutions. The first is a resolution approving renewal of taxi cab vehicle for hire license for Dennis Charles Maines, doing business as Yellow Cab Transportation. It's going to be one of those nights, man. Number 2 is a resolution to establish a new fee schedule for special events. Number 3 is a resolution approving reservation schedule for Dankworth Park tennis courts. Number 4 is a resolution authorizing the City of Burlington to hold the Great River Bridge Race. And then we also have public hearings. The first is consideration of sale of a portion of North 7th Street right-of-way located west of the property locally known as 625 Valley Street, City of Burlington, Iowa, with conditions. It'll be April 2nd. The second is consideration of an ordinance vacating and selling a portion of the South 14th Street right-of-way located adjacent to the property at 1408 Harrison Street, Harrison Avenue, Burlington, Iowa, April 2nd, 2018. And number 3, let's see if we can do this without a boo-boo. Consideration of transit grant application. It'll be April 16th at 2018. We also have some appointments. Mayor Pro Tem, can you address those, please?
Yes. We have Paul Walker being reappointed to the Board of Housing Standards and Appeals, reappointing Chuck Griffin to City Planning Commission, reappointing Joel Sterin for the Economic Development Advisory Committee, reappointing Barbara Nelson Botts for the Historic Preservation Commission, and appointing Michael Crowner for the Zoning Board of Adjustment.
Okay. Does anybody have any issue with any of the appointments? See none in the audience? Very well. Can we get a motion, please?
Your Honor, I have a motion to approve all listed under item 1 consent agenda.
Second.
Kathleen?
Wilson?
Aye.
Phillips?
Aye.
Graham Murray?
Aye.
McCampbell?
Aye.
Rinker?
Aye.
Well done. We have our first hearing. It is time for consideration of a lease agreement with Des Moines County Humane Society for use of the facility at 2000 North Roosevelt Avenue. Chief.
Hey, good evening. This is the lease agreement that we discussed at the work session, and there hasn't been any changes to the agreement since then. The attorney representative, Eric Benny, is here on behalf of the shelter's half of this. So if you had any questions of him, he was graceful enough to come along and answer any of those. But like I said, this agreement or this lease was reached between the City of Burlington's attorney and Mr. Benny. So if you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer.
Is there anybody in the audience that has any questions or concerns? All right.
I have no questions.
I didn't say anything. Read it. Go to standard.
Okay.
Your Honor, I have a motion to close.
Second.
All right. Moved in second.
Wilson?
Aye.
Phillips?
Aye.
Graham Murray?
Aye.
McCampbell? Rinker?
Aye.
Your Honor, I have a resolution approving a 15-year lease agreement between the City of Burlington, Iowa, and the Des Moines County Humane Society for the use of the facility at 2000 North Roosevelt Avenue.
I need a second. Second.
Okay, moved in second. Let's go ahead and vote on it.
Wilson,
Aye.
Phillips,
Aye.
Graham Murray. Aye. McCampbell, Rinker.
Aye.
All right. And next we have consideration of plans and specifications for 2018 parking lot improvements. Nick.
Do you have that slideshow, Eric, from last time? Just as a... The plans and specs before you are for two different parking lots in the downtown area, Main and Valley, and then 6th and Washington. Main and Valley is considered a new addition to a parking lot. There used to be previous buildings there. And then 6th and Washington would be an overhaul on an existing structure. You could hit the next slide for me. Hit the next one. Talk about the dollars. $50,000 was budgeted for Main and Valley. I will take the fault in the discrepancy between Jesse's estimate and that. I did that last December to come up with the budget estimate. Jesse's budgets have been pretty conservative overall. We're bidding these out together in several different ways, so hopefully we get a little bit of a bargain for a little bit more work. 6th and Washington kind of has been a project that's been ongoing for the last 2 or 3 years, kind of in combination with 3rd and Washington. $66,000 is something that's from several years ago, so there's some inflationary factor that's played into that, along with a storm line that was connected to the sanitary sewer on the east side. We found that it was connected to the sanitary sewer, so we have to abandon it and then create new storm infrastructure. That'll go down the 6th Street sidewalk. Will actually be an improvement to that area because that sidewalk is pretty beat up. But that project dollar figure is at $135,000 for concrete and then $100,000 for asphalt. My preference would be concrete for material.
And I'd just say with that project, to think about it in perspective, that was designed as a resurfacing of the lot itself when the original cost estimates were done. And as time has gone on, that incorporated some thought into how do we handle the stormwater runoff with needing to do the upgrades to the stormwater system that you mentioned was a significant cost portion. Wanting to improve access and address some of the issues with that, the hump that you have to go over to get in over the sidewalk and having to redo some of that. And then a final thing is how do we make sure that we're doing this in a way that allows us to be in the right position if we want to add a second deck on that in the future. So this is a project that's seen many modifications done to it that are outside the engineer's control.
And I did have Jesse work up some numbers on the wall for Main and Valley. If you were still interested, I had him run a couple different height variations. The way he had proposed to do it was to dowel it into the existing foundation of the previous buildings. A 3-foot, 6-foot, and 9-foot wall. 3-foot wall would be about $22,000. 6-foot, $40,500. Then a 9-foot, $74,500. I don't know the exact the length of that, but I'm sure he ran it for the full extent of what that foundation was.
Where's this at?
Main and Valley. We had talked
That,
about
for the
wall.
paint.
Yeah. It would be 8 inches thick. I don't know he hasn't worked out the details of how that would work by doweling it, and we would have to do an addendum to this if that's something you would want to do.
So what were the numbers again?
3-foot wall, $22,000. 6-foot wall, $40,000, $500. 9-foot wall, $74,500.
So on the Main and Valley, Nick, what's there now? Just a curb? Is it going to be a curb area, or is that going to be open where you could get in from the?
Well, Jesse and I talked about that. There was a planned curb area because of the foundation and trying to go down and then remove existing to get the necessary amount of surface that you could drive over would be tough. I'm not as concerned about that, but right now it'd be a curb
Okay,
and not using Market as the roadway out.
right. Well, I was thinking more of a roadway in when the trains would come. I'd hate to see people start doing U-turns there and come up
Cut
through
through.
the parking lot where people are walking. So.
Yep.
Okay,
So there is a planned curb in there.
a curb, okay.
If I remember correctly, last week he said that wall could be added at any point, right? Because the foundation was going to.
If you do a curb, you probably could go back in and saw cut it afterwards. But there would be some expense in removal of existing concrete. But our plan right now is to cover all the existing area that had been exposed.
It have cost, but in comparison to a $20,000 or $40,000 project, it wouldn't be a huge
Couple $1,000.
just in comparison. If you add it's something that would make sense that you could add later.
Okay.
And you could do a wall in another way where you don't use the existing foundation, but if you do that, you would have to create some sort of a footing system below.
Okay.
And the thing that I don't think he's calculated is the amount of, it obviously held up a block wall, but it was a block wall that was cornered.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if he's worked out the engineering on it being able to sustain just a flat concrete wall.
So just to clarify, there's no true barrier between that parking lot and the railroad tracks, correct?
There's nothing, no.
There would just
Market Street.
be a curb,
But there's
or in
a
the
curb, correct.
Now, can I switch gears and go to Washington 6? You were starting in on your preference would be concrete. Is there, if we did do a second deck later, is there an advantage going concrete versus the hot mix asphalt?
Where you can put.
I mean, I would think that concrete would probably be better because you can cut it a little bit more accurately and dispose of it. Not that you can't do that with asphalt. I think just the surface holds up a lot longer.
Well, that's the other thing,
Yeah.
the longevity of it. So.
Well, but it also, if you put a deck over asphalt, and that asphalt goes bad, or I mean, eventually it's going to become.
Yeah, I don't
you're
know
never
the
gonna-
height to be able to get a milling
Yeah,
machine
you're
in
never
there.
going to get the height to have the milling machine to be able to get in there. and
So
get it out
I'd
of
say let's do concrete.
Well, and I guess I started into it. We're bidding it as multiple packages. Concrete for both. Concrete for Main and Valley. I don't think asphalt makes a lot of sense for that parking lot because it's small enough. I think you lose your cost savings by doing one concrete, one asphalt. But we'll see how that goes. And then we also are just bidding out Main and Valley separately in case costs are severe enough on the other project.
Would there be any cheaper alternatives to the wall? Different material? I mean,
Paper.
well,
Just kidding.
Add peanut
I
butter.
don't know.
I wouldn't be able to.
no.
I don't know if you could do a block wall that would be cheaper. I was just thinking that it would be if you have a concrete person and they deal with concrete, they're likely able to probably form up a wall. I mean, flat work and vertical work is a little bit different, but at least they have the materials and the knowledge to know how to do that. To introduce a different material into that, I guess I don't know what that would be, brick or a block. I guess you could probably do a cinder block wall.
Why were we looking at a wall again?
It was just a question that was
I
posed
brought
for
it
the
up
other
last
night.
week because I'd seen in other communities where they had used that as a medium for people to go
Oh,
and
okay.
do
Yep. I remember.
types of
Thanks.
murals or. I mean, there was a beautiful mural there
For years.
I mean, ever since I can remember. So I just thought if we could
And
come up with an
and
alternative.
I love the idea, don't
put
get me wrong,
something there.
I love the idea, and I love the idea that we can add the wall at a later date, but being that we are over cost estimates, I think that we probably should table the wall for now and move forward, preparing it so that we can go a second level of parking, because I think parking probably wins out over a mural at this time, but adding it at a later date actually would be a good idea.
And if I were to have any suggestion, not that I should need to give it, but the brick wall that's on the east side of the parking lot is not in very good condition. I think when we do some of this planning for the Tiger Grant spending, if that's something you desire to have, I think that area probably could handle it. I don't know what it would look like there versus on the south side, but I think out of function of that area, it probably makes more sense maybe on the east side. Now, you can't see it when you're driving down Main Street necessarily, but you would at least be able to visualize it from the road or from the sidewalk. because I know that brick wall is not in great shape.
Or even on, is there a wall on the west side for the alley?
There's not.
Okay.
No.
All right.
The building that's on the west side of the
Yeah,
alley.
I didn't know if there was a wall there. Couldn't remember.
Hey, man, all we are is just another.
Brick in the wall. Thanks.
Okay, so are we good?
Great.
Thank you, sir. Anybody from the audience, questions or concerns? Mr. Renteria?
Eric Renteria, 907 High Street. Just a couple of comments. One, anything that we do to add parking to downtown is a good thing. But my question on this is this going to be parking that's available to the public, or is this part of the police station changes and it's going to be a parking lot reserved for city vehicles only?
The lot that
Maintenance alley.
that came with the U.S. Bank building when we purchased that was designed for your department. We did trade that lot for these lots to do an extension of it, but it was still designed to be for PD use. The other lot is a separate discussion. Do we have, I don't know, even know what our policy is on that one for whether that's an hourly area. There's some reserve.
But they will be marked.
Yeah.
Okay, so in follow-up to that, about a month ago I sent a message to the council members asking for the revenues that are generated from the yellow boxes for parking. And I never did receive a response in regard to that. I'm not sure how difficult it is to get that information, but I mean...
It's not. We've gotten it to you before. It's
Yeah, I
just
thought we
been,
discussed
it's
that.
been a few, the last time we gave you that information, it's been a few,
Didn't
but
that
we've,
get that to you guys?
I was gonna say, we did get it.
Did you?
We
I
got
don't
it
know.
almost immediately after we spoke to you last time. If you'd like, I can.
Yeah,
thought-
I
you know
never
what? I
received
think,
it.
Eric, we discussed it at a meeting too, but you might not have been here, so that might be what. I
but you
thought we
can get
discussed
that,
it.
you can get
Yeah.
that information.
Okay, I have not received a response.
Okay, I apologize. I
in-
guess
for that.
we all did, and we must have done assumed that you got it as well.
No, I did not.
Okay.
But I do think that working on the parking lot at 6 in Washington is important. And as we look at some of the funds that are coming, I think it's going to be critically important to look also at the parking lots that are available behind Lindo's. There's a couple of suggestions that I'll share with the council over email for additional parking lots. I think it's very important that the police understand how important parking is, and the city has rallied to that by making sure that there's parking in the new facility. And I think we need to place equal importance for parking for people who have businesses downtown. So I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. And received. Anybody else from the audience? Question or concern? I see none. Council?
I don't have any concerns at this point in time.
That's good to know. Can I get a motion then?
Motion to close.
Second?
Moved in second. Kathleen, can we vote, please?
Wilson,
Aye.
Phillips,
Hi.
Graham Murray,
Aye.
McCampbell,
Still getting used to this Graham Murray, man. I love it. Yes, absolutely.
Rinker.
Aye.
Okay.
Your Honor, I have a resolution approving plans and specifications for the 2018 parking lot improvements.
Second.
Mr. Tisdale?
Oh.
Are you ready?
Huh?
Ready for roll call?
I just got thrown off. Yeah, let's do that then.
Okay. Wilson,
Aye.
Phillips,
Hi.
Graham Murray,
Aye.
Am I correct?
We're right here.
I'm leaving after this next ordinance. Go ahead.
So the plans and specs before you right now are the HMA project for Mount Pleasant Street. The project extent runs from Roosevelt West to Gear Avenue. It is a mill and overlay project with a lane configuration. If you'd hit 2 slides. So the lane reconfiguration rather, is the one seen off to the right. Currently it is a 4-lane road with 2 lanes in each direction. The road diet, as the DOT refers to it as, will be 1 lane either direction and then a shared center turn lane along with 2 bike lanes on the outside. this is a lot of the reason why we received the grant money that we did, which is in excess, or it exceeds $1 million. She'd hit the next slide. That way I don't. Next one. As you can see, we receive over $1 million in federal aid to do this project. The remaining portions are split between Burlington and West Burlington. Most of the project actually resides in West Burlington, hence the greater share of that split. It is at a estimate of $1.2 million. This is a public hearing for this project, but it will not actually be let locally. It'll be let through the DOT because of the federal funds involved, and that letting schedule is not until June 19th, I believe. Yep. So you probably will not see construction until this after July 1st. There's a little bit of concern from my end on getting it complete before asphalt is done. The construction will start with some intakes and some ADA ramp and some other sidewalk concerns, and then they'll start getting into the asphalt. Once they get into that, it shouldn't be too much longer. The milling and asphalt part of it probably won't take that long. But it's still concerning for me to try and get that done in about 4 months or so.
All right. Let's see if do we have any questions from anybody from the audience for our Assistant City Manager? Anybody? I see none. Thank you. Council?
Your Honor, I have a motion to close.
Second.
Moved in second. Moved and seconded twice.
Your Honor, I have a resolution approving the plan.
I got to vote.
Yep.
Motion.
Kathleen.
Wilson,
Aye.
Phillips,
Aye.
Graham Murray,
Aye.
McCampbell,
Aye.
Rinker.
Aye.
Okay. Now can we get a resolution?
Your Honor, I have a resolution approving the plans and specifications for the 2018 Mount Pleasant Street HMA overlay.
Second.
Moved in second. Kathleen, let's do this.
Wilson,
Aye.
Phillips,
Aye.
Graham Murray,
Aye.
McCampbell,
Aye.
Rinker.
Aye.
Now, I know some of you are probably thinking, wow, they've been busting the chief up all week, and now they decide not to bust him up. Everybody deserves a break. So, now who are we kidding? He doesn't deserve a break. Let's put the picture up, please. We want to recognize, this is the last picture that we're going to recognize of Chief heading off. This is what his future life is going to look like.
No, no.
He's going to be heading off into the wild blue yonder and all of that good stuff. But if you notice, he's got in the side pocket, he's got a cell phone so that Mary can call him and make sure that he does all his chores and he doesn't get out of line. But Chief, it's been a blessing having you. We've loved making fun of you all this time. It's truly been my pleasure. But tonight is the last night. We're going to give you your grade, and we're going to send you off farewell with one last gift. But I just want you to know that you mean a lot to the city. We appreciate all your hard work and effort. It needs to be recognized. It's a tough, tough, tough job. You couldn't pay me enough, but I'm glad we could pay you enough to do it. So, that being said, judges, shall we go to the scorecards first? We started with you. We're gonna end with Mr. Rinker tonight. Huh? You don't have any
I
chalk?
got pass and chalk. We're
Okay,
chalk for.
take one down, pass it around. So. Graham Murray.
I've given him a 5. I'm not sure if he has protective UV eyewear on there, so I had to ding him a few points.
Sorry, bro. You should have protected yourself.
Chief, I'm going to give you no, wait a minute. That's a 1. Because what I saw somewhere, I don't know if it was on Facebook or is in the paper today, it was your hands on a plunger, which I truly believe is your next career. Plumbers make a lot of money, though, so you'll be all right on a part-time basis. Thank you, Chief.
And they take care of a big problem in our society.
You're dealing with... No, I'm not going to go there.
I'm doubling down, man. Again, I'm going 2 weeks in a row just because the Bambi picture got me. And if I could have had somebody think about that for me, I could have been somebody. I was this close to being a contender. But we give you a 10 on that picture tonight, Chief. Mayor Pro Tem.
And it's a 3. I heard what happened. You
Go
may
on.
have won the basketball game, but only because
Got drafted.
you went to the winning side.
That's right.
But
Mr.
All right,
Raker.
Chief, I'll give you a 10. It's a sympathy 10. That's all it is. But it's still a 10, right?
Sympathy 10.
It counts.
If you would like to come down, please. We've just got 2 gifts left to give you. If you get stranded out in the woods and it gets cold at night and there's no little sunlight left, make yourself a fire, warm yourself up, but don't make a big one or that guy's going to be tipped off. And then the other thing is everybody needs a little head protection, or if you're out in the cowboys do it, they wrap it around so they don't get dust up in their face, so you can protect your face there with that as well. Man, I'll tell you what. Chief, it's been a blessing, my friend, and you're not walking away without saying something tonight. Okay, so, you got it. All right. Can we just give our police...
Well, first and foremost, I mean, thanks doesn't even really cover it. It's kind of an emotional time for me right now. It's kind of tough, sure going to miss a lot of people, but at the same time, it's just really, really humbling. I mean, it's something you go home and you really kind of start to think about, what's ahead, and what is there. So it all starts with a big thank you. I mean, I'll have a few more things to say when I get my plaque about that, but I'm very sincere about that. There's a lot of really, really good people that have supported the Burlington Police Department and that support the community. And Sunday was a perfect example of that. See 1,200 people from our community and the surrounding area out there supporting those athletes. I mean, those are the kind of things that you wake up every day and you go, yeah, it's worth it. It's worth doing this. So, I mean, first and foremost, I'm very humbled to have had the opportunity to serve the Burlington Police Department, the community, and all the fine representatives. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
I still think it was the 70s stash that won the whole thing for him, but, Again, Chief, thank you for being such a great sport. It's been phenomenal. Let's see if we could get through 2 more. Okay. I'm going to try 2 more here.
All right.
Hold me, Ken. We're just going to do this one. I'm going to get out of here, and you can handle it.
Okay.
We've got an ordinance next.
Yep. I have preliminary adoption of the second reading of an ordinance rezoning the property locally known as 333 Curran Street from R2 single residential to C1 limited commercial zoning district.
Thank you. Second.
Second.
She got you. I know. Mr. Tisland?
No changes from the previous reading. Again, applicant has requested to rezone to C1 limited commercial to allow future commercial office development on the site. Plans to demolish the existing residential structure and garage. Any new development would have to meet all our current zoning codes for access, parking, setback, etc. So the Planning Commission did vote 4-1 to recommend approval of this to the council.
Okay. Okay. Anybody with any concerns from the audience? Is there one? Thank you so much. Council, are we good?
I'm going to motion to amend the motion for preliminary adoption of the second reading of an ordinance rezoning the property locally known as 333 Curran Street from R2 single family residential to C1 limited commercial zoning district to read as follows. For waiver of preliminary consideration and adoption of the second reading, and for final adoption of an ordinance rezoning the property locally known as 333 Curran Street from R2 single family residential to C1 limited commercial zoning district.
I'll second.
We got to move in second. I'm going to try to do a little bit better with some of these. Some people have questions. We moved this up. We moved this past a reading because it wasn't a big issue. So now we're going to vote on this. What we're doing now is we're going to vote on the amendment. She just amended the motion. We're going to vote on the amendment. After we vote on that to see if it goes through, then we will vote to say, hey, do we accept this? So I do want to apologize for people. Just expect people to just figure it out after time, but I need to try to be a little bit more to let you guys know exactly what's going on. So that's what we're doing now. We're going to vote on the amendment. After we vote on the amendment, we will vote as amended. Okay, Kathleen, please.
Wilson,
Aye.
Phillips,
Aye.
Graham Murray,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Rinker.
Aye.
Okay, now let's vote on it as amended.
Wilson,
Aye.
Phillips,
Aye.
Graham Murray.
Aye.
McCampbell.
Aye.
Rinker.
Aye.
Okay, number 2.
I have a motion for preliminary adoption of a second reading, an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Burlington, Iowa by amending provisions pertaining to the standard penalty applicable to certain sections of the code and violations thereof.
Second.
Moved in second. Mr. Tisland? I'm sorry, Chief. Yeah.
Yeah, there wasn't any change. Getting additional questions we got.
Okay. Pretty much the same, similar type of situation from the one that we just received. So let's go to the audience. Is there anybody from the audience that has any questions or concerns? Okay, that's awesome. Council, are we good?
Yes. I would just motion to amend the motion for preliminary adoption of the second reading of an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Burlington, Iowa by amending provisions pertaining to the standard penalty applicable to certain sections of the code and violations thereof to read as follows. For waiver of preliminary consideration and adoption of the second reading and for final adoption of an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Burlington, Iowa by amending provisions pertaining to the standard penalty applicable to certain sections of the code and violations thereof.
A second?
Second.
Okay. Moved in second. Okay, that has just been amended. So, second verse, same as the first. We will be voting on the amendment, and then after on the amendment, after that, we'll be voting as it has been amended. Kathleen?
Wilson.
Aye.
Phillips.
Aye.
Graham Murray.
Aye.
McCampbell.
Aye.
Rinker.
Aye.
Okay, the ayes have it. I'm sorry.
We
Wanna
gotta
vote
vote
real
on it
quick?
as amended.
Yes.
Okay.
The ayes have it, so that we can vote on it as amended. I gotta get out of here. Go ahead, Kathleen.
Wilson.
Aye.
Phillips.
Aye.
Graham Murray.
Aye.
McCampbell.
Aye.
Rinker.
Aye.
All right. I'm going to get out of here so that you guys can have a safe meeting and nobody gets hurt. Before I do want to say it's good to see all of you come out and continue to support Mr. Renneria, same to you. And just good to see my good friend. I'm so bummed that you came down on a bad night for me, but it's always a pleasure to see Zach Grashit. He's one of our local winners, so we just want to keep encouraging you to make a difference in Burlington. So, all right. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yep.
Counselors.
Take care, man. Good night.
Hope you start feeling better.
All right, next we have resolutions.
Your Honor, I have a resolution establishing a no parking zone on the east side of the 800 block of South Star Street.
Did I get a second?
Can I do it?
I'll second.
Okay.
Sorry, I was drinking. Water.
Thanks for the clarification. In front of you is a resolution establishing a parking zone. That's an extension of the no parking zone, just the block north of it. As you can see, there is a no parking zone between the blocks of just to the west of Core School. I don't know my roads very well. From 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. During school days. There was a request for no parking on the block south of that. Rather than create something different, staff recommends extending that no parking zone further to the south from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. During school days to allow for some of the higher traffic volumes that it receives in the morning and afternoon. We did send out letters attending that this meeting would be tonight. We didn't receive any responses, so there may be people in the audience that would like to speak on it, but staff recommends approval of the no parking zone in this area.
All right, sounds good. Do we have anybody in the audience? Questions or concerns? I see none. Council?
How's this enforced? BPD or?
All right. Let's go ahead and vote on it.
Wilson.
Aye.
Phillips.
Aye.
Graham Murray.
Aye.
McCampbell. Sorry. Rinker.
Aye.
Your Honor, I have a resolution approving installation of a two-way stop sign at the intersection of Dodge Street and South 14th Streets.
Need a second.
Second.
There was a request made to Public Works about the intersection seen here, South 14th and Dodge. After staff took a look at it, there's a warrant process, as I explained last week, based on site distance, 10-year history of traffic accidents, and then average daily traffic load. The only thing that would trip the warrant process in here was site distance. There were 2 accidents in the last 10 years in this area. Because site distance is not good at all, it's very hard to see in these angles. Staff recommends putting stop signs north and southbound on South 14th.
Okay. Do we have any questions or concerns in the audience? I see none. Council?
I don't have any.
All right.
Good.
Go ahead and vote on it.
Wilson,
Aye.
Phillips,
Aye.
Graham Murray,
Aye.
Rinker.
Aye.
Your Honor, I have a resolution of the City of Burlington, Iowa, approving the application of Frank Millard and Company for the purpose of receiving benefits under the state of Iowa's targeted jobs, had to take a breath, withholding tax credit program and initiating agreements relative to the program.
Second.
Jeremy Hess, Greater Burlington Partnership. Also have Scott Smith here with Frank Millard Company available if you have any questions, but this is a great expansion project here for our community, a local company that does a great job employing our people, and this is an expansion that's going to include about 50 high-paying wages, 50 jobs paying high-paying wages, and I'd answer any questions, or Scott can answer any questions if you have any.
My only question is exactly what is this cavitation process? Maybe that's going to be way over my head, but I'm excited about the jobs and excited about Frank Millard once again leading this community, so that's good. Put your knowledge to test here, Smitty.
This is
Can you explain it to someone like me?
we're looking forward to those coming and seeing it in work this Friday at 2 o'clock. But basically what this device does, it's a machine. It looks about the size of a refrigerator. And when you take, let's say for example, if we take a mixture of high-fat yogurt that's mixed in water after it's come off a process, they've been unable to separate it. Well, when we enter it through this reactor, what the reactor will do, it'll go through about 400 emulsions per second, and it creates these nanobubbles. And these nanobubbles will, does not, when it comes out to the effluent, does not, what it does, it keeps them all together, and it starts to separate things heavier and lighter, and your clear water will go straight, your heavies will go low, and the yogurt that was in there, they'll be able to retrieve it, and it'll float to the top. We can use this for fracking when they shoot water down into a fracking hole, and you know they recover that water because they don't have water out usually where these places are. So we can extract the oil where they might extract 60% of the oil. We're going to be able to extract 98% of the oil from the sands and the effluent that comes out of there. Food processing, we can remove starches. If you look at the recent House bill that was passed at the state capitol, House File 512, where one of the biggest challenges that we have is our water runoff with nitrogen and phosphorus that's going from our farmlands into our waterways, into the rivers, and now causing algae blooms down in the Gulf. Well, we'll be able to capture that, and we can take and separate the nitrogen and the phosphorus, and we can do two things. We can keep circulating it till it goes away, precipitates, or we can turn it into organic fertilizer and the water will go clean. So what it is it's a reactor. It looks like a supercharger on a race car. It's no larger than this, and we'll run water through it, and there's different ways that we can operate it. We don't use chemicals. where presently you have a wastewater system now where you use chemicals or polymers to clean things, separate it. By using this device, we'd be able to we eliminate those, eliminate the needs for those. We have a portable unit that we'll be building, allow us to take it to places where we can't get the waste. For some reason, they don't allow them to remove it from that area, and we can clean it there. And then we're also developing, like if you can imagine a large Connex box, we will be able to have a couple of these units in it, along with a little weird portable tank. And we can literally drop it into an area like Puerto Rico that's been hit by a disaster. We can run water through it, add some chlorine on the end, and they can instantly have some drinkable water. So our biggest challenge that we have is with it being a new technology, we still don't know all the great things that this thing can do. But what we do know is we've been able to form a partnership with this product that's been out since about 2003, which it originally came out. And it was ready to come to commercial market October of last year. And we were fortunate. We have an individual that works with us, Mark Dunn, who had worked with the company and did all the testing and research. So we've got to see the scientific data that supports all the things that we're doing. It's definitely a game changer in this industry. And we're really happy that it's going to start here. And any help you can give us to help let the world know that here in just a few more days, we will have the best technology available for our wastewater solutions. So it can do so many different things. So thank you for consideration, time.
Thank you. I wondered if it had usage for agriculture, and yeah, you said it does. So
yes, matter of fact, one of our we're gonna run some, as we say, livestock manure through it this Thursday, and you'll find out how smell goes away. So nothing's better than having manure around and you don't smell it. So.
Can you handle 25 million gallons a day?
No, right now we can do. We're up to about we can do about 5,300 a minute, 5,300 gallons a minute. Up to we can do as low as 17 gallons a minute. So we have multiple sizes, but we have research and EPA sign off in a project down in Florida where we've cleaned Lake Apaca, or Mitten has, and it was algae blooms, killed everything, and they brought it back to life. Unfortunately, if we would have had this product available to us for market, we wouldn't have had to drain geode. We could have just run the devices and dredged the bottom of it. But hey, you know, it's not about yesterday; it's about tomorrow. So, thank you.
Don's back there taking notes.
Pardon?
Don's back there taking notes.
Oh, okay, good.
Do we have any questions in the audience concerning this? All right, good. You guys got all your questions answered? All right, very good. Let's go ahead and vote on it.
Wilson?
Aye.
Phillips?
Aye.
Graham Murray?
Aye.
Rinker?
Aye.
Your Honor, I have a resolution approving an agreement between the City of Burlington, Iowa, and the Burlington, West Burlington Area Chamber of Commerce for hotel motel tax distribution.
This is a resolution.
Second.
Wait a second.
Second.
This is a resolution to renew our existing agreement with the Chamber for Services. We've had this comparable 3-year agreement that goes through this June 30th. This would extend it under comparable terms for the ensuing 3 years. The distribution that's in, I think it's Section 5, is a little different in that first year that the base, instead of the base 700,000 being split on that, is it 60-40? It is, I hate not being able to find it now.
30.
It is the first 670. That's 70-30, isn't it? It is only the first 675,000. The equivalent of $7,500 difference in payment as part of the discussion that we had last year about trying to make up in the new contract for some things that we made decisions about in the last fiscal year. And then it returns back to the existing formula that we have in place, and that was a goal from the partnership as we worked with Jason and Chelsea, was to try to maintain our existing relationship on this agreement as we moved into the future.
Do we have any questions or concerns in the audience? I see none. Council? Good. All right, let's go ahead and vote.
Wilson,
Aye.
Phillips,
Aye.
Graham Murray,
Aye.
Riker.
Aye.
All right. At this time, we will take questions from the audience. Anybody? Nothing? Okay. Who wants to go first? You want to go down this list?
Just one update, the Flint River Trail, we're going to be starting construction on that again, that second phase, carryover from last year. So they're planning March 26th to actually start mobilizing for that, and we'll probably see some traffic control up on Bluff Road, similar to last year with the lights during that construction. So that'll start probably next Monday with dirt work.
And with that project, there were some concerns about trying to make sure that we could get everything done that needed done with it. You've been able to work through all of those.
We're still working through, we've secured the easement from International Investments, a host company. Still working with Lamont on trying to secure an easement in front of their property. If we're not able to at this time, we'll be stopping that project just short of where we planned, but not a significant change, but one we'd like to still work with them on to get as much completed with our grant dollars as we can. So we're still working through that, but if we're not able to at this point, we'll be stopping it somewhat, a little shorter than planned. But the project will commence regardless. 90% of it is on right-of-way that we already have, and easements that we have secured.
Just a couple things coming up this weekend. South Hill has their Easter egg hunt, and also the Beaster Bunny 5K race. So for those of you that want to do a little early walking or jogging, 5K is just 3.1 miles. You're all capable of doing that. You can push a baby stroller. Everybody can get out and enjoy the nice spring weather. There's also an Easter egg hunt prior to that. It's a lot of fun. It's out at the Recplex, so come join us.
I don't have anything besides I'm hopeful that spring is going to come and stay for a while.
Right? Fingers crossed.
No, spring. That's it. I just got back from the Wisconsin, or from the Northwoods, Wisconsin this afternoon, and there's still 1.5 feet of snow on the ground up there. So happy to be back in the warm weather.
Right.
Banana boat.
Nick? I do. I'll have some at the end.
And you're going to want to follow up what I have to say since I'm uplifting stuff.
Never mind. You've been revoked.
I think you say in Iowa there's 2 seasons, right? Winter and then construction. You have already started to see some construction start. West Burlington's Broadway reconstruction project has started some traffic control moving in. We were under the impression that it wouldn't start until midsummer, but they're here. Our contractors already started the driveway for Jimmy John and Perkins and that parking lot there. They will probably have that poured sometime this week is my guess. And then they're scheduled to take down the intersections at the frontage road and West Burlington Avenue. So when they go and reconstruct those intersections, north and southbound traffic will not be able to go through. And then you couple that in with Broadway being worked on, the north and southbound roads will be restricted to Gear Avenue and then Roosevelt. And then at some time in the future when they get asphalt up again, Gear will begin the rest of its asphalt work for West Burlington. So this is a detour map. We put out a press release, I think, last week about the driveway being worked on. We're scheduled to put one out again for Monday. I think it's Monday. I'd have to confirm, but you'll see a press release go out. We'll put this detour map on there. There'll be some signage going out trying to explain that detour, the detours that will be going out. So it'll be impactful for traffic trying to get north and south across Agency Street for sure. But I don't know how else to avoid it. So I can answer any questions on that if you have it. But so it'll be interesting. That phase of the project should take about 2 months. They'll probably be working on both of them simultaneously. So hopefully we have good weather here for the next couple weeks.
Sounds good.
Tiger Grant. We did have an announcement on that, which was rather nice. Eric, I think your department's put up the Tiger Grant application. Where is that located?
It's on the city's page under the Community Development Department, if you go to that, and then on the left-hand side, I think there's a link to the Tiger Grant. I'll pull that up here and see if I can show it.
And there was a nice story on KWQC as Mr. Rinker has pulled up. So if you haven't seen that, you're certainly encouraged to go look at it. Charlie, I think, did most of the talk on that. The application, the process of doing a Tiger Grant is all designed around the idea of connecting multiple modes of transportation between where people live and where they work. And it's been designed over the last decade to try to come up with unique projects that kind of can hit at those concepts, and gives a lot of flexibility over what can be included in whatever is put forth as a project. And it's a very competitive process. You got to be able to make sure that you're hitting on those key components, and if you can do it in a unique way that shows a solid benefit, you're gonna stand out over other communities. But that being said, there's only a small percentage that are funded, 41 or 42 projects nationwide. So us to be able to get it is pretty neat. We do have a little bit of flexibility over how the funds are used, but if you look through the grant application itself, which I encourage people to do, it is fairly specific about what we said we were going to do with it. The two corridors that are of focus on this project are the Main Street corridor, and it gives boundaries for the portion of Main Street that are to be included in that, as well as the Jefferson Street corridor. And it's essentially from building face to building face in the area between. And those two pieces or components have some, fairly thought out cost components that are included in the application. The rest of the work that is included in here has to do with the concepts that really came out of our flood wall project and the visioning that was done there. And there is more flexibility over what gets included in there, and a lot of that has to do with the fact when we went through that visioning process, a lot of those extra add-ons were concepts. They weren't final designs. They were designed to give some options for what could be done adjacent to those areas. And you'll see that items that are mentioned in the grant application include the boat dock that's would be just immediately to the west of the flood wall, improving the ramps on specifically the south side, since we eliminated 2 ramps, doing some trail work, doing some other things in the parking lot areas. And those, some of the things that we talked about when we went through that design phase included some stadium seating areas, potentially putting in an ice rink type area.
There's the deck on the north side of the port, the visitors shower house station, all kinds of revamp on the south side, especially the boat docks.
So those are things that aren't fleshed out as to what those funds are going to be used for as of now, but they do need to be within the concepts that were put forth in the application. We have some flexibility, but not a lot. We're very early on in this process, since we haven't talked with anyone from DOT to even begin talking about what the contract looks like. But I would anticipate that what would probably make sense is that the group and all the entities that were involved in that initial design work on the flood wall, that those same type of groups be a part of the process over trying to flesh out over the course of the next year how the concepts that are in the Tiger Grant, how we prioritize them, and then bring that forward to the council as a whole to yay or nay as to what's going on. That's just to kind of give you at least a little bit of preliminary on that, because I know that there are a lot of thoughts that are going on out there, and somehow we have to put at least a little bit of a rope around what the scope is over what we can do. You know, and it does tie off of, and this was designed to come out of the flood wall work. You know, we are continuing to move forward on the flood wall work, and we're still on schedule with that. Debate. Go ahead.
I'm not going to go over the overall schedule.
We have some components that are behind. In general, the work is pretty much on task. We have we do have components that are behind. We have a lot of it that's designed right now to wrap up the first week of June, which has some tight schedules on it. But we've also had some discussions between the contractor and Steamboat Days as they've kind of talked, trying to work out to make sure that they can work together cooperatively as Steamboat Days comes on. Is that fair enough to say, Nick? So we're optimistic on that part being able to be worked out. Chief is retiring. My goodness.
What in the world?
Who granted that?
Yeah.
I haven't signed anything. With talking about that flood wall and then the Tiger Grant, there's a community forum this Saturday. It's down at the auditorium, and it's designed to have some talk about where the auditorium sits. I'm not exactly sure what they're including in that, because I haven't even followed up on the stories that have been done on that to promote it. Talk about the flood wall, and then really kind of talking about the area between the depot and the port is kind of what the three themes that they wanted to be able to hit at. And the Tiger Grant really fits very well into what that is, and a lot of that is going to have to get fleshed out as we move forward. But there are a lot of possibilities for what we can look at there. But for those who are going to be involved, down at the auditorium at 11 o'clock this Saturday. Council, you have goal setting on Thursday. 3 to 5, 3 to 7. I wish it would be 3 to 5, but it's 3 to 7. And we took all of that 4 hours and we went through our session. So I wouldn't be surprised if we don't take all of that 4 hours for us as well.
Right.
Indoor rec facility is continuing to move forward. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
They are looking at a tentative, they're starting to look at some preliminary designs, I think, to go out to the west of the Recplex. And some of those concepts, I know that we're having staff have some discussions with folks from their group on what are some possible interactions for the facilities as they go through the design. And I assume that we'll have a group that comes to the council over the course of the next month or two to kind of give an update of where they're at as they do that design work, and maybe even have a request for where they'd like to see the city fit within that. You know, one of the big pieces that we already are online for trying to work with them on is the expansion of, is that Broadway? To the south, and then going west over to West Burlington Avenue, with a RISE opportunity, not an opportunity, it's an economic development grant through the DOT, but it's for future potential use of the area. One of the things that we'll incorporate into that is some on-street parking to the extent that we can, in a way that ties into that proposed facility location. That's a 50-50 split. We're looking at using TIF funds to match on that street work. That has an application date this fall, so we'll be looking to do an application for funding to do some street work that we wouldn't be doing until the following year. That being said, I think that there's a goal for the indoor rec facility to see if they can't be up and running by this next season. So, those are some of the things that have to be worked out too, as to how to make things happen where we don't have everything necessarily in place. It's still part of the long-term plan, and accommodate usage of that area prior to that. Civil Service is going to be meeting tomorrow afternoon at 1:30, and that will be approving a list of eligible candidates for the position of police chief. So after we have that done, we'll go through the process of trying to get set up for the selection process next week. That's next Tuesday and Wednesday that we'll be going through some fairly extensive meetings for that, which includes a community introduction to the candidates on Tuesday evening from 5 to 6:30. And hopefully we'll be able to be in a position to make an announcement fairly soon after that over who will be the next police chief after Doug retires. All right, I'll get used to it. I think that can kind of hit at what we're needing to cover for tonight. There's quite a few different items.
Right.
So, I will say we do have one other thing. Nick's group we have spent forever trying to get the next phase of the Locust Basin out to get work done on the combined sewer separation. We've had 2 round submittals now for CDBG funds to help with that process. Neither of them have we been successful on, and both of them on different technicalities.
Are we resubmitting?
I think so. I mean, it's a bit disappointing to have to wait, but the next round, I mean, the applications would be due April 1. Our package is there. We don't have to do anything different. This last time, I mean, what the technicality that they didn't even consider us on. We had all our wage surveys to prove low to moderate income. You have to have 50% low to moderate income in the area to be eligible for CDBG financing. That area is actually 60% low to moderate income. The results were sent in, but the survey instrument was not attached, and they kicked it out for not having a survey instrument not attached. Whether that's part of the regulation or not, that previous applications, that has not kicked out applications, but it did on ours. So I know staff still hasn't really had a chance to really talk about where we are on it, because we did just get word on that this last week. But so if we have an April 1 submittal, we won't get word back until towards the end of June.
And then we can't do the letting process until after that, right?
Correct. Okay. So that really puts us into a fall letting with very little work happening until next year. So that is very disappointing for staff moving forward. All right, I'll turn it over.
Okay. I guess just, get out there and enjoy what the community has to offer. We've got some races going on and some fun egg hunts. We also have a bunch of musical stuff going on downtown, of course. The CISO, Southeast Iowa Symphony Orchestra, plays this weekend at the Capitol. So that'll be good. That's at 7:30 on Saturday. That's all I have. Just enjoy your family this weekend and the rest of the week. With that, can I get a...
Your Honor, I move to adjourn.
Second.
Moved in second.
Wilson?
Aye.
Phillips?
Aye.
Graham Murray?
Aye.
Rinker?
Aye.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I do.